Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor, and I'm getting ready to embark on a 450-mile road trip with this all-new 2024 Lexus GX 550 Overtrail Plus. We are heading from here in Irvine, California out to Glamis sand dunes for Camp Razer 2024. For those of you who are not in the know, Camp Razer is a huge event that Polaris puts on out at the Glamis sand dunes for all things Polaris Razer. It's going to be a wild and crazy and fun-filled side-by-side adventure, and I couldn't think of a more perfect vehicle to bring than this Lexus GX, because this is one of the most capable off-road vehicles on the market here in 2024, but it also has the comfort and creature accoutrement that you're going to want on a longer road trip. So I really wanted to take it out for a full weekend and do some more camping and a little bit more off-roading, because this is the ultimate off-road version, but my weekend's going to be cut a little bit short. Nonetheless, I'm looking forward to taking this thing out to the desert. I mean, we even have the appropriate color for getting this nice and dirty. Now, I gotta say, I have driven the Lexus GX a few times, but this is going to be the most extended seat time I've had with it. But so far, everything that I've experienced with this new GX is excellent. So, without any further ado, let's get behind the wheel. This one you're looking at, fully spec'd out, about $80-some thousand. You will have already seen the price below. But what I like is that for this generation of GX, Lexus has given us the option of either just luxury, just off-road capability, or in the case of this Overtrail Plus model, both. You can have the luxury features like ventilated seats and this very nice leather with the off-road capability that this vehicle is capable of. So we've still got our locking differentials, we've still got all the different multi-terrain modes and the all-terrain tires that come on this one, but it still promises to be a luxury experience. Because at the end of the day, if it weren't very nice in here, why not just get the 4Runner and save yourself a whole chunk of cash? But of course, another reason to pick the GX is this 3.4-liter twin-turbocharged engine. We're going to see as we get up here on the highway, it is plenty smooth, and I'm not expecting it to be particularly fuel efficient, but it will be interesting to see what sort of fuel economy we get. In fact, I should probably do a reset of that right now. But this motor promises to give us the capability and excitement of a turbo V6 while still having that extra degree of refinement that you come to expect from a Lexus. And I gotta say, I'm not a huge fan of the new Toyota Lexus gauge cluster. It is fine enough once you get used to it, but in this car, it's kind of dark, especially in the direct sunlight here. It's a bit tough to see everything. What's nice about these road trip reviews is that there are often annoyances or pros to a certain vehicle that won't crop up until you've spent a lot of time behind the wheel. And I think it's really easy for people to get behind the wheel of this new GX and go, oh wow, this thing is really nice to drive, or oh, I'm not super impressed by the interior the way I was with the outgoing generation. But after living with it for a significant amount of time and having to put on big miles, might have some developed thoughts. Now, I will say with this Overtrail Plus model with the available roof rack on here, even at about 50 miles per hour, you do start to hear it, and you also hear these tires kind of whirring away. And that's pretty interesting, because we just did this exact route with a Raptor 37, fully loaded with camping gear, and in that truck, I could not hear the all-terrain tires. Even though they were the 37-inchers, they were the KO2s, big, meaty tires, you couldn't hear those running on the highway. It was really impressive. This, I can already hear the tire whir at 50 miles per hour. I'm sure it's going to be even louder once we get up here onto the highway. The vertically oriented mirrors I'm a fan of, because it helps keep the vehicle from not being too wide, still gives you a good amount of visibility, but it's just different than what you're used to with most vehicles. I really like the footprint of the new GX. It doesn't feel like a large, cumbersome vehicle. And obviously, it's not as large as something like an LX or, Land Cruiser, that sort of thing. Although, actually, it is probably about the same as the current Land Cruiser, but I was thinking the outgoing one. And obviously not as big as a full-size truck or anything. So it's got a nice footprint for moving around the highway here. The steering wheel is fairly small as well, so it feels compact to me and maneuverable. Oh, there's a new Countryman right there. Interesting. Up here at highway speeds, The tire noise actually hasn't gotten worse, so happy with that. Definitely hearing the roof rack up above. Obviously remediable. If you don't plan on using that roof rack, you can simply take it off. We've got 222 miles left until we get to Glamis. I'll check in with you before we get there. About 2.5 hours in, and we are just outside of Ocotillo Wells and Anza Borrego State Park. And we're going to take a little bit of a detour on our way out to Camp Razer, because when you're in a Lexus GX, it would be a shame to pass all these super cool off-road trails without taking one of them. That, I think, was probably our road right there. So we're going to do a little whip around and catch it. Turning radius test. Quite good. Oh, and some of my things are going to start moving around. Here we go. This is Buttes Pass. And we might as well switch over into some sort of off-road mode. We don't have any off-road mode. All right, we'll just keep it normal then. We have Eco, Comfort, Normal, Sport, Sport Plus, and some custom modes. And then I believe when you engage four-wheel drive, then you can choose some of the multi-terrain selects here. Actually, yeah, I can manually do a multi-terrain select. And then we have auto, dirt, sand, and mud. So let's just go to, I think if we go to sand, it's going to keep our revs up really high. So I don't think I'm going to want that for more of a harder packed trail like this. Doesn't seem too bad so far. And this is the most impressive thing about the GX. I mean, I've been comfortable this whole trip so far. Been cruising along, testing out the Mark Levinson sound system. Got my navigation going on the wireless Android Auto. Then you just pull off on a trail like this, and the suspension is superb. But you know, this has been a little bit of a disappointment for me. Not any real great place to put my water bottle. I've got a 32-ounce metal water bottle that I keep, and the center cup holders don't hold it very well, and the door pockets are too small to properly hold it bottle style. So that is a bit disappointing. That's the reason you get a truck like this, is to do adventures like that. That guy is using his 4Runner properly. This is cool. Look at this. This is a cool section here with a little bit more technicality. Do a little test of the sand abilities here with the GX. Big bumps, obviously. Approach and departure, no issue. We need to bring up some sort of camera system here. To do that, we're gonna be, let's see. Wish there were a dedicated camera button. Doesn't seem like there is. Maybe you have to be in a certain, like 4 low to get that. That's unfortunate. And I guess I could go into 4 low right now, but I don't think we quite need it yet. There's some deep sand. Oh yeah, we're spinning. Let's go, baby. No problem. Let's see, what's this look like? Let's switch to 4 low for this section right here. There we go. Now we got our off-road cameras. We are spinning quite a bit. It might have been beneficial to lock the diff, but we're already going. That was deep. We are not air down at all. Go. Cool. We're gonna continue on, get out here. You can see how many people are already out. Whoa, 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 whoa. Big bumps, big bumps. We're gonna get out here and see how many people are already out here on Halloween weekend out at Ocotillo Wells. Let's get continuing on to Camp Razer. Wrapping up an easy 4 hours in the seat here in the GX, rolling into Glamis, and apparently there are going to be tens of thousands of people here this weekend, and by the amount of side-by-sides and dirt bikes and off-road trucks that I've seen, look Look at this Sierra just bombing through here. I mean, this is going to be a pretty wild weekend. I kind of wish I could get the GX out there, but I also know I'd need a flag and a permit, and we're going to be out having some fun on some of the new Polaris Razer models. So check the link below if you do want to see that coverage, if you want to see us out there doing that stuff. But this is wild. In terms of the GX, I mean, aside from the fuel economy, I don't think it gets much better than this. I've had my devices charging up, getting ready for the weekend out in the RV, using the USB-C ports and the wireless device charger. The only annoyance I have had is there's a driver attention monitor here. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be paying attention while you're driving, but also, you look down or just out the window for what seems like an appropriate amount of time, and the car starts beeping at you. Furthermore, I don't think you can turn that functionality off while you're driving. So I'll have to actually come to a stop sometime and remember to turn it off somewhere in the settings. But other than that, I've appreciated the comfort and the capability. I'm going to have to fill it up with some premium fuel here before too long, but I think it's time for us to go enjoy Camp Razer. Making my way back home after what ended up being such a crazy time out at Camp Razer. I didn't know what to expect. I knew there were going to be a lot of people and a lot of chaos, but disorganized chaos is how somebody described it there. It's so many off-road vehicles all running around each other at all hours of the night. There are fireworks and drone shows and just... It was sensory overload. Absolutely cool. Super glad I went, but it is nice to be driving home here in the comfort and confines of the GX. One part that has proven a bit frustrating is, again, that fuel economy, averaging 18.3 miles per gallon right now, and I think it helps kind of just contextualize why I think most people will not choose the Overtrail model. Maybe this is pretty obvious to you, but just in case it isn't, the Overtrail model is built for if you plan on taking your GX off-road, and not even just roads that I did on the way out there through Ocotillo Wells. I'm talking hardcore off-road, rock crawling or deep sand running, and doing that regularly. And if you're not going to, just get the luxury or the premium model. You're still going to get plenty of capability and ground clearance, and if you do ever change your mind in the future and you do want to use it a little bit more off-road, you can get yourself a new set of tires and maybe even swap out the running boards and side skirts and stuff if you do need a little bit more of that capability. But you're going to get a little bit better fuel economy, it's going to be a little bit quieter, and just nicer to drive in general. I actually came down really close to running out of fuel. Well, possibly. I at least had the range right down to nearly nothing. Some people say that Toyotas and Lexuses keep an extra few gallons in their reserve after you hit 0 on the distance to empty. I didn't really want to try that out down in the desert, so I had to dip off early at a fuel station I didn't want to fill up at and get gas there, but I only made it about 330 miles on the tank, and I know that included some off-roading, but still, with a vehicle like this, I mean, that's just me in it. Imagine if we had a little bit of extra stuff on top, or if we had people in it loading it down a little bit more, or if, God, heaven forbid, we're towing anything. This thing is just, it's not going to have much cruising range at all when it comes to fuel. I mean, I'm just under half a tank right now, and it says I've got 112 miles. And I do think that distance to empty meter needs to sort of relearn itself back up, but still, not impressive. The other thing that's been frustrating to me is the driver attention monitor. I talked about it a little bit earlier. I did end up turning it off for the beginning of this drive, and it has been much nicer. It just seemed overly intrusive. I was driving through and just looking at the farm fields on the way out of Glamis, and it was beeping at me. And it's just like, I mean, I've got the active steering and the adaptive cruise is supposed to kind of take care of that for me, right? I'm not saying that you shouldn't be paying attention to the road. I'm saying that I've done a lot of driving in my life, never had an issue, and that got annoying. So I'm glad that you can turn it off. It's just frustrating that you have to be stopped in order to turn it off. But other than those fairly minor things in the grand scheme, it's a nice car to be in. So I'm going to continue on driving home. We got about an hour and 20 minutes left, and then wrap up some of my thoughts with you later on this week. Back home, settled in, and wrapping up some of my thoughts after spending extended time here in the all-new GX. I do have to qualify a few of my thoughts earlier on. The roof rack on top of this GX is optional, and it costs, I think it's about $1,500 if I remember looking at the Monroney properly. And this GX that we're in does have quite a few options, and some of those I don't think most people are really going to necessarily need. So you could get yourself into an Overtrail Plus GX for an even more reasonable price than this one is looking at. So given what this car offers and the functionality of it, the price point is not crazy. I don't think that Lexus is terribly overpriced in this situation given the capabilities and offerings of the vehicle. That being said, it is a decent bit more expensive than the outgoing GX, and it doesn't offer the same driving experience. And I'm not going to say that's better or worse, but people who purchased the outgoing GX 460 received a vehicle that was one of the most stout driving experiences on the market, between the build quality and the ruggedness of the car, the powertrain, everything. It was like driving a rock. And for better or for worse, this new GX is not like that quite so much. It's a very easy driving experience and a little bit more light and lighthearted. Some people are going to appreciate that. Some people are not going to appreciate that. I do think it's a bit interesting that Toyota both softened the GX and introduced the new TX, because the TX fits that larger three-row crossover offering that a lot of people were looking for from Lexus, and then having to purchase a GX or an LX, but not necessarily utilizing all of the off-road capabilities that those models offered. Now the TX exists for some of those people looking to get into a Lexus badge, but not have any of that off-road capability necessarily. So I think if you're somebody who's still getting into a GX here in 2024, you do want to utilize its capability. You do want to take it off-road. You do want the ruggedness. So I understand why you might go with the Overtrail model. And yes, the fuel economy did take a bit of a hit. I don't know if it was more from the roof rack or the tires. I think it was the roof rack, honestly. So I think you could get away with having the Overtrail model here and have the all-terrain tires and still have some semblance of efficiency. As for the rest of the vehicle, again, it's everything is competent. I could go for a little bit more practical storage space around here. You pretty much just got this awkwardly shaped wireless device charger that has most devices sticking out kind of at an angle. It doesn't really hold your phone very well. It also makes your phone very, very hot. There's no sort of active cooling with it. And then you've got these tighter cup holders that don't hold most larger bottles very well. So I'd like to see a little bit better functionality from this center area. if you had two people in here and they're putting all their stuff for a road trip, it's going to get a little tight. The infotainment is functional, but not class leading. I do appreciate that we at least have the wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the screen's actually fairly close compared to a lot of newer vehicles in this market, so I don't mind it that much. The voice functionality is, again, just sort of middle of the road. I don't love how hard it is to see the gauge cluster and the screen. I've got the brightness up. It's just between the contrasts and the shading. It's just hard to see in bright sunlight. But I like the powertrain, I like the transmission, I like the way the car drives both on-road and off-road and on the highway. So a lot is done really well with this new GX, and it's time to put it on the Daily Motor leaderboard. Getting near the end of the year, so the list is pretty flushed out. We've got the 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe now taking first place, Kia EV9 second, and Ford F-150 third. Where are we putting the Lexus GX? I'm thinking right below a somewhat competitor, the BMW X5. 12th place for my car list here in 2024. It's cool. It's got a lot going for it. It's just a little bit niche because of its pricing and offerings compared to, well, frankly, all of the other off-road SUVs that Toyota has now. Because you can get an LX, or you could get a TX, which isn't fully an off-road, but it's still a crossover like this. You've got the Land Cruiser, you've got the new 4Runner, you've got the Tacoma, you've got the Tundra. A lot of different options. You even got the Sequoia. I would take the GX over most of those, but it is going to be a little bit more of a limited market. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the GX, check the link below, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.